Hey, go, more energy than that, please. More, 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 more. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. So today, it's going to be a very interesting night, and we're going to be talking about one of the things I'm the most passionate about, which is self-directed learning. So pretty much how you can teach yourself things along with AI. Okay. Before that, I do want to kind of just pan out the session for you guys. We're going to be starting with the keynote from me. If you guys notice, all of you guys have kind of like this worksheet. So throughout the keynote, you guys can kind of fill it in. The whole point of this worksheet is that by the end of this, you guys are going to be able to design your learning project to some extent. Okay? After that, we're going to be going into a fireside chat. We're going to be with Alexander Galea. He should be coming soon. And, oh, he's over there. Oh, okay. I was like, okay, I hadn't seen him. I've just been so busy. And Scott Young, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's very big in the learning science space. He's going to be joining us live from Zoom. And also Barbara Oakley. So she was one of the hosts of the biggest courses on Coursera, Learning How to Learn, which reached over 4 million students. She's not going to be here with us live because she couldn't, but I do have a pre-recorded video that I'm going to be playing for you guys. After the fireside chat, we're going to be going into an app demo. So me and my CTO, Elliot, we've been working on an all-in-one learning app. Oh. Yeah, and so we can't do a full demo here, but what I do have is the slides kind of going through the different features and everything, and I think you guys are gonna like it. Then towards the end, I'm going to be announcing prizes. Now, I don't know if everyone was able to apply. I think there were some issues where my email got sent into some people's spam folders. That being said, I did receive a decent amount of applications. What's going to happen is I'm going to be announcing the winners at the end, and then for the people who weren't able to apply because for whatever reason you didn't get it, I'm also going to give you the chance to apply towards the end, and then I'm going to be sending an email to the winners as well. Okay, so that's going to be kind of panning it out. All right, let's get into it. All right, no, first one. Okay, so first I want to talk a little bit about the title here. The reason why the event is called The Last Skill, Self-Directed Learning in the Age of AI, is because I believe that object-level skills are, the half-life of object-level skills are shrinking. So what does this mean? This means that every 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the skills that you used to have, which were subject-specific, are no longer as useful as they were before. So back then, maybe you were able to learn something, and you could use that knowledge for like 20 years without having to constantly adapt and evolve. But in the age of AI, that's no longer true. And so the whole concept is that self-directed learning becomes the meta skill, and the last skill, so the one that survives, because what remains true is that you're always going to have to be learning new things. And it's also called self-directed learning in the age of AI, because with AI, as long as you know how to use it, you can self-direct your own learning a lot more effectively. So a lot of the gaps that you would often see if you had, when we didn't have AI and you didn't have an expert tutor with you all the time, for instance, lack of feedback, etc., we'll be going into some of those, can now be fixed by AI. So that's kind of the meaning behind the titles. So yeah. Okay, so a little bit about this part. For most of human history, access to information was really the key thing to developing skills and success. That's no longer true. We have more information than ever. So what's really going on is it's not about access to information, but your ability to process that information and your ability to design your own learning, teach yourself things. That's what's becoming the new kind of competitive advantage, because even people in third world countries now can teach themselves like Python, anything. So that's the whole concept. All right, next one. Yeah, so the meta skill that acquires every other one. So the half-life of specific skills is collapsing, but self-directed learning is always gonna remain important because you're always gonna be having to acquire new skills, even if those skills change. All right, next one. Yep, so self-directed learning is the gap where you are and where you want to be. One of the reasons why I say this is because, at least in capitalism, skills define how successful you are. That's a belief that I have. So if you can develop more skills at a deeper level and at a more effective level, you're gonna be more successful. And self-directed learning is the engine behind that. Yeah, next one. Oh, okay, so this was an interesting experiment, and I kind of bring it up just because we're all kind of wired to be self-directed learners. So the hole-in-the-wall experiment in 1999, Sugeta Mitra cut a hole in a wall in New Delhi slum, dropped an internet-connected computer, no teacher, and the children within weeks who never touched the computer started to learn pretty much all the functionality behind it. So what's the concept? The concept is that even as kids, so pretty much at that age, there's this kind of intrinsic desire to learn, and that's kind of the idea of the experiment, and I really liked it. All right, next one. Okay. Does anyone know who this is? Let's see, raise your hands. Demis Hassabis? Okay. He says, one of the things that he says is learning how to learn is the most important skill, exactly for the very reason that you're always going to have to be acquiring new skills. And so don't just take it from me. He's also said that's one of the most important skills to develop, especially in the age of AI. Okay, more achievable than ever. So this links back to my initial point. AI lowers the barrier to self-directed learning. So now even, obviously ChatGPT, you can buy like the premium subscription or whatever, but instead of spending thousands of dollars on personalized tutors or even access to elite institutions, pretty much anyone can teach themselves things now. Okay, yeah, exactly. So this is a little bit of kind of the trajectory of kind of knowledge growth and the different tools we've had. So we started with books. That obviously helped. That democratized learning in many ways. Then there was the internet, even more. And now AI is kind of like the third kind of evolution of that. Yeah, okay, so the point is not to offload your thinking. A lot of people now are using AI not as a thinking partner, but as just someone that does the thinking for them and pretty much just creates everything. That's not the philosophy behind what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about more how to use it as a thinking partner and how do you use it to learn more effectively. So it's not about offloading like how you're thinking, how you're learning. It's more about using it to augment like your intelligence in a way. Okay, so these are some stories. This one, I don't have his picture, but these are some stories of people that self-learned and really took it to a new level. So let's look at this one, the amateur who solved the 60-year-old open problem. So this was a 23-year-old Liam Price. I think it was like a few weeks ago or like a month ago when I saw this story. 23 years old, and he taught himself basic level mathematics and using AI. So this is a mix of learning and also creativity. But using AI, he was able to solve a 60-year-old open math problem that hadn't been solved before. And he was an amateur, like no degree, nothing, just using AI. So another one, I believe he's 19 years old. His name's Gabriel. He's a high schooler who dropped out. Taught himself machine learning, artificial intelligence, and he's a researcher working at OpenAI right now. Again, using ChatGPT and using the internet. The third one, the dog owner who outpaced the cancer literature. So this was an Australian tech founder. His dog, Rosa, had cancer. And he's like, hey, there wasn't a specific vaccine, not cancer to be able to treat it. There wasn't specific developments yet. And what he said was, hey, I'm going to teach myself biology, and I'm going to try to make that development. So over the course of a few months, he taught himself biology. He was able to have access to certain institutions to sequence different things that he needed to do, and he was able to come up with a cure for his own dog. So these are some interesting stories of self-directed learning and really the heights that you can take it to. Yeah, so Terence Tao, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, probably one of the most famous mathematicians. This is a little bit in the context of research, but with AI, I can work on problems I might have abandoned because the cost of exploring the wrong direction is so much lower. So AI aids both learning and also creativity. Okay, so a little bit about my story. So all of you guys have a sheet. I don't know if you've read it, but the kind of purplish black one. It goes into a little bit about my story and why self-directed learning, I believe, is so important. Next one. So when I was 15 years old, I'm originally from Cuba. So when I was 15 years old, my family's business around Airbnbs pretty much went to zero due to COVID. I had the option to enter the Cuban public system. I decided not to. What I decided then was to take a gap year. That gap year then became permanent. And inspired by actually one of the speakers we're going to have on the fireside chat, I decided over the course of a little over 2 years, reverse engineer MIT's math and physics curriculum and teach myself it. And then over 2 years, I published it. It's reached over 500,000 people online already. And so this is also a little bit about why self-directed learning is so important to me. Yeah, so this is kind of what when I finished. So for those of you that like study math or physics, these are some of the courses I took: real analysis, abstract algebra, quantum mechanics, special relativity. I'm 17 in that picture. That's when I finished all the courses, and I took a picture of like this is pretty much all the notebooks that I had and all the different, the different markers. So even you see the markers there, those are all markers that ran out of ink that I used on the whiteboard. All right, next one. Okay, so 500,000 people. The thing that I learned the most, so yeah, 500,000 people, we reached different news outlets, everything like that covering the story. The thing I learned the most wasn't even the math, it was that anything is learnable, and that in the age of the internet, and now especially with AI, I didn't have AI when I did my project, that was from 2020 to 2022, but now with AI, anything is learnable. Next one. Yes, exactly. So most people look at the gap and they blame the wrong things. So this is, I've heard this all the time, right? So their circumstances, their background, their resources, their network, their intelligence, or their work ethic. But it's really a system problem, not any of these. All right, next one. Yeah, so it's a system problem. All right, next one. Yes, okay, so this is a belief that I have. Now, obviously, there are some what I call adjacent skills. So that I don't include here, but I think two of the most important skills, if you want to be successful in life, is the ability to self-direct your own learning, because success comes from skills. And then once you have that, is how do you engineer your own opportunities? Obviously, there's other things like discipline, focus, etc. But I think these two skills are some of the most important in the age of AI. Okay, the roadmap. So obviously, we can't go 100% in depth into learning science and everything, but what I want at the end of this is for you guys to at least understand one of the initial steps, or at least the first step in self-directed learning, which is designing your own curriculum. All right, so we're going to go a little bit back. Ooh, upwards. Can you go back? Oh. Yeah, all right. So we're going to be talking about how to design your own curriculum, the 5 pillars of self-directed learning. So this is a methodology that I created based off of synthesizing a bunch of different research papers along with my own experience. Then we're going to be talking about how to use, from those 5 pillars, how to use AI to connect them. Then we're going to talk about how to maintain a little bit more consistency. And finally, how to document your work, so learning in public, so that you guys can actually get more opportunities. Okay, curriculum design. So when I did my learning project in 2020, I think this was something I definitely got pretty wrong because I kind of just dove into it and was a little bit kind of unguided. But since then, I've learned a lot more things that I think are going to be useful for you guys. So this is what and you guys can kind of see also on the worksheet. We're going to learn to work backwards from a goal, identify prerequisites, sequence them, how to choose resources, and how to make decisions based off of our curriculum. Next one. Okay, so this is really the framework that I use if I'm learning anything. So first I start with a goal. Now this goal can be anything really. It can be like, okay, just because you want to know more. It could be because there's an interesting question like, okay, why is the sky blue? It could also be a problem that you want to solve. Like for instance, if we go all the way back, like the tech founder who was able to find a cure for his dog's cancer, that is a problem that he had, and he reversed engineered his learning from that. Or finally, it could be like an interesting project that you want to achieve, like design a website or something. Then from there, so not quite yet, go back up, okay. Then from there, we're gonna identify concepts, and by the way, not just concepts, so learning, obviously, there is concepts related, but there's also facts, procedures, etc. So this is really more about having exactly all the things that you need to learn, and then once you reverse engineer from that goal and try to search the things that you need to learn, you find resources for them, right? And then once you have that, this is very important, and I didn't really, I did it kind of informally. Important to have a mastery checklist. So you want to have observable things that determine whether you've mastered something or not. So this is really the framework that I use. The important part that I'll also mention, this is adaptive. So if you are teaching yourself anything, obviously you don't have, you can't really see things from a third-person perspective. So you have to kind of go with things. And then as you're learning more about it, your curriculum is going to change. So you're going to maybe remove things, add things, right? That's natural. That's normal. So it's meant to be a personalized, adaptive curriculum, at least this approach. Next one. Yeah, so it's a living document. So here you see some examples. Based off of your goal, the more you research things, and for the search part, you'll actually notice one of the best ways to do it is through a keyword search. So obviously online, you could start a goal. Then from that, you try to find adjacent things to that goal. And then from that, through repeated iterations, you're able to have a living document of the things that you need to learn. But again, it should be adaptive. So don't just get stuck, okay, these are the things I need to learn. Like if there's more information that you get, that should update your beliefs around what we should include or remove. Next one, yep. Okay, so the 5 pillars. So if anybody's learned a little bit about learning science, these are at least the 5 pillars that I've come up with that try to encompass all the important things around building an effective learning system. So the first one is encoding, and I mean, you can change the words 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but one of them is encoding. So this is really how effectively you can process information and get it into your brain. The second one, which is very important, so this is kind of the meta skill that underlies learning. So like learning is the meta skill of acquiring capabilities, and then metacognition is almost like the meta skill behind learning itself. So it's really how a lot of people think about different things. So you can think about a certain subject, I don't know, you can think about, hey, I have to take the trash out, but rarely do we think about our own cognition. And so that's where metacognition comes in. You're literally at a meta level trying to reflect and be more self-aware of how you're thinking, and then based off of that, you make decisions around your learning. Then the third one is retention. So besides encoding information, obviously these pillars are all related, as you'll see. But besides encoding information, you also want to remember it, obviously, so there's strategies around that. Then there's deliberate practice, so actually practicing the skills that you encoded. And then finally, something I call schema revision. So these are kind of like, if you haven't went into the literature on learning science, you might not know what schema is, but it's really just a mental framework for understanding things. It's how knowledge accrues in our brain. So oftentimes what's going on is as we're learning, we're inferring and we're constructing knowledge, and oftentimes that knowledge is incorrect or insufficient in some ways. So the whole point is how can we consciously revise our own schemas for better learning. Next one. Okay, so now these are a few prompts. Now obviously I'm going to be sending everyone these slides, but you can feel free to take a screenshot. My whole goal then is, again, using AI as a thinking partner and as a learning partner. So based off of these different pillars, these are prompts within each pillar that you can use, and you can kind of feed AI to help you. So some of them in the encoding pillars, so mental models. One of the key things that limits a lot of people is just the mental models around a specific subject. And so if you're able to acquire them more effectively, the expert mental models, you're going to learn much faster. So yeah, these are some of those. You guys all definitely, it's a decent amount, so I'll definitely be sending it to you guys, or you can take a screenshot. Okay, so now a little bit about consistency. All right, let's go into the next one. Because it's like, obviously, if you have a learning system and you're not consistent, nothing really matters. So that's why this part I think is important, especially as self-learners. Next one. Okay, so a few things. Now, my whole philosophy around learning is the following. These are things that are going to help you, but ultimately, if you want to really change, whether it's your discipline or whatever, there's something I call self-actualized learning, so learning in the pursuit of self-actualization. It's really changing your interior reality, and once you change who you are, all of this becomes kind of irrelevant. You don't really struggle to like learn or whatever, because you're full of energy because of the reasons that you're doing things. So these are some things that you guys can screenshot to help you as you're learning new things, but ultimately, if you become a person that learns because they want to get better, they want to master their craft, you're going to have an endless amount of energy to learn. But these are some things that can help. Okay, next one, documenting your work. So this is a very passionate part for me. If you learn things, we're living in a trust economy, so people are buying from people they trust and people are hiring people they trust. So if you're not really documenting your learning, like documenting your learning is one of the best ways to build trust with people. And so because they don't just see, it's not even just like a certification or whatever, they literally see you learning in real time. And it's one of the best ways that people love to chime into a story. So this is one of the reasons why I think it's so important to attract opportunities. Next one. Okay, so these are a few things. Yeah, learn and build in public, that's how trust and relationships compound. So there are a few examples of things that you can do. So it could be like notes, open questions, today I finally understood. These are just some examples of things that you can post in public to attract opportunities and get people to be interested in you and what you're learning. Okay, so these are a few things. Now, this is more specific around engineering opportunities. So for those of you guys that want to get hired or whatever, these are things I've found useful from other people I've spoken to and seen. So make something specific for one company. So based off of your learning, how do you say, I don't know, Shopify or whatever, how can I create something specific for them as a tangible artifact of what I've learned? Then a body of work. So this could literally be all the different things that maybe you've done. It could be articles, etc. And then build a thing they haven't thought of yet. So creativity, I think, is one of the most underrated aspects of even getting hired. So if you're able to be creative and create something that they didn't even think of, that's one of the ultimate forms of proof. All right. Yes, so businesses market the product, you are yours, right? So you spent time learning, now you built yourself, right? You built your skills, you're the product, now it's time for you to market yourself towards other businesses or other people. This isn't just about getting hired, this is about attracting any opportunity. So you built yourself as the product, now it's time to market the product, and the way you do it is through, again, building in public, right? Okay, so this is a interesting thing. Brian Chesky, one of the best things that he said was, the best people I hire come from referrals, word of mouth, and meeting talented people in person building cool things. So show up where people are, send thoughtful notes, and be known for one specific thing. I think this is one of the most underrated aspects. So coming to events like this, et cetera, is one of the best ways to attract opportunities. So again, the barrier is not capacity, it's structure, persistence, and the right community to do it alongside. One of the things that we're going to be looking at as in the prize giveaway, I'm launching a community. So one of the interesting things about self-directed learning is that when you learn, so some people get this wrong, but if you learn within groups, sometimes that's less effective, but if you learn within the context of a community, that actually improves learning. And so it's one of the reasons why I'm doing these events and whatnot. Okay, over to the fireside, all right? So we do have, I think, like 10 minutes before we start, but in the meantime, I'm gonna see if they can properly set things up, and then I'll actually take some questions before we get started. All right, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
I studied philosophy as an undergrad, and I don't see a lot of self-learners bring up philosophy as the schema to use to learn more. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? It's usually the hard sciences or the math or the formal sciences. So what's your thoughts on philosophy?
So I think there's two kind of, I don't know, obviously this could be like putting people into buckets, but there's people who think it's useless, or it's not practical at all. And then there's people who just kind of, to use the words mentally masturbate just with learning philosophy. And so I'm kind of like, I like to learn things. And so to me, I think one of the benefits, and actually you notice this, the more you learn, the easier it is to learn new things. One of the things that I've noticed, especially when it comes to creativity, is if you have mental models from different fields, you can recombine them and then create something new. So I think just in general, the concept of learning from different fields, I think is very useful because you're going to see insights and have perspectives that other people don't have. So even in the case of philosophy, I like philosophy because I'm always about like theory, thinking about things, and having a fundamental truth to things. And I think philosophy can provide that in some ways. But yeah, I mean, it's just whatever people love to learn. To me, I think learning new things in general is going to help you in any way. Does that answer your question a little bit? Okay. Any other questions? Oh, okay.
Partner Oakley's concept of interleaving that he mentioned.
Oh, I was going to get him, then I got you, okay? Yeah. Oh, you got it?
That I was
You sure?
adding
All right.
Okay, so self-learning is obviously some people would find it challenging. So is one thing about self-learning that is challenging is something called approval seeking. Like, hey, I am self-learning, so I would improve my stats and break every barrier, and then like be like really uncomfortable when like my ideas are rejected or that I have been facing a barrier. So is this obviously a major obstacle in self-learning?
So just to kind of confirm to make sure I have your question. So like having, in a way, it's a little bit more like around people's judgment around it. Would that be fair to say? Okay, around self-learning. Just to make sure I have the right question. Would you say it's more because like they're like, okay, you didn't get it officially done, or what would you say it comes from?
It comes from me like being perfectionist and like me like not accumulating bad results or bad outcomes. That's the thing.
Okay.
Okay, so an example is, hey, like I'm applying for like some application cycle, and then like my application like got rejected, or like I bombed an interview, or that I made a bad impression. That is one thing, and then like I couldn't find a way to then ask for a second chance. That is one thing like really makes me nervous, because I'm expecting like every single one of these interactions has to be positive. Like, let's say like I'm a seller. The only good like rate of, let's say, like order defect rate is 0. That is what I have placed if I am an Amazon seller.
Yeah, okay, so I think I understand your question now. So, I mean, the way this is all about expectations. So, there's even research on happiness around that. So, when we have a certain expectation and that's not met, there's kind of like a certain sadness that comes from it. That being said, it's also because you're evaluating yourself externally instead of internally. So the issue is you're not evaluating yourself on how much you're learning, how much effort you're putting in. You're evaluating yourself off as an external metric. And so this is one of the reasons why I think the important thing is like really changing your internal reality first, right? Because that's really all that is. And so that's what I would say. That's one of the reasons why I also have this community and whatnot, because I want people to learn to become self-actualized. I think that should be the end goal. And that's what you should focus on, and like obviously impacting other people's lives in different ways. But the way that has changed for me is I don't evaluate myself off of external benchmarks. And that takes time. Like your subconscious has to literally change, and to literally change how you see yourself and what you value. But yeah.
So this is the reason why I, like 10 years ago, I have quit like Facebook. But like I have already, like people's already like starting to like reach out to me back. And like recently, like an old friend of mine in elementary school actually like called me back after several years. They invited me to the reunion, and it justifies me like basically like trying to write a good essay once more, this time on what stuff I have regretted, like a post-mortem of my high school years, and what has caused me to underperform. Because although I did like make it to the computer science program of the University of Toronto, I definitely felt like I could do better, and I could like bust all the limitations and stuff. Like some limitations are really discomforting to me, for example, like how, like, let's say the Earth imposes limitations on how much we can like consume, like, or like the computational resources required to solve chess, like that thing, exponential, it's universe scale, and like that thing. And then another thing is just expecting myself to be perfectionist, or like always going to like be like, hey, I'm on the top 1% all the time, or like the top seed all the time.
That makes sense. Let me interject for a second. Yeah, I mean, like this just links back to what I think about. Like I really just think that this is a internal versus external issue. So what you should be is like, obviously, I really like this analogy. So let's say that you have a certain habit, it could be of learning. If you miss one day, that doesn't mean that you should like beat yourself up over it. The way I like to see it is when people are like, let's say, voting, you don't need to win all the votes to win the presidency. You need 50%. So the way that I think about it is in those cases, successful people, what they do is they have quick forgiveness. So they kind of jump to baseline more quickly. So the people who, let's say, they get a bad grade and now their whole week is ruined now, those are people that I would say in a way have less resilience. Your whole goal should be, again, to try to become someone that has more resilience, and that's done through controlling your mind of returning back to baseline. And that should be how you evaluate yourself. You shouldn't be like, you should want to be a resilient person, and then to be that, you should be like, oh, like, because I am a resilient person, I'm going to shift back to baseline. I'm not going to let this affect me. All right? Okay. Is he in? Okay. Okay, I'll ask one more question, and then we're going to be going over to the fireside.
Hi. Thanks so much for this. I was wondering if you could speak to research or things that you found that facilitate the average person's success when learning from an online or self-directed learning. Like, for example, traditionally learning was happening in classrooms or with teachers, professors, and so you've got the relationship base there that helps to facilitate that and completion and accountability. But when we're moving over to a digital and online sort of system, there can be a lot of drop-off of engagement or lack of completion. And have you found what aspects can help to facilitate success in an online or self-directed environment for those that are not the atypical, really self-directed learners, but more of your typical person wanting to improve or take a course?
Yeah, so the way that I would actually see this is for pretty much anything in life in general, not just learning, whether like you're building a business, whether you're doing something else. This is why, so self-directed learning is the methodology that I teach, but the philosophy is self-actualized learning. So the thing is people need to shift from, like you see this when it comes to creating incentives. So one of the things I personally don't like about the traditional school system is the emphasis on grades. I'll give an example and I'm gonna loop back. I forget the exact name of this, but I believe it was in Australia. They had a law where if you were able to kill more cobras, they would pay you. What was the issue? People started breeding cobras to then kill them. So this is kind of where incentives go wrong, and I think that grades is the incentive that gets people to like want to cheat on tests or do all these things because they're optimizing for the grade, not for learning. So with self-actualized learning, which is what I believe in, is that you're learning for the sake of mastery, you're learning to get better, you're learning because you want to expand your knowledge. So it has to, the way that you motivate yourself and you get an endless supply of energy is not through like pushing, oh crap, I need external accountability, whatever. That can work in a short term, but to get endless amount of energy, you need to start focusing on self-actualized learning, which is learning for the reasons that I outlined. All right? Okay, I think we're gonna shift to the fireside chat. After I'll have more questions, okay? But let me see if I can get in here. So, oh, he's in there, okay. Let me also go through here, hold on. Let me go, ooh, do have to go, hold on. Actually, let me get my phone real quick. Could you get me my phone? I'm gonna get the, all right. Okay. Okay, let me go up. Yeah, he's there. Oh, Scott, you can hear us? Hold on a second. Yeah, I'm just looking for the specific, I had some questions out. Okay, here we go, I got the questions. Can you hear us, Scott?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear
Okay. Oh, I think. Are you able to turn up the mic so they can hear him?
Yes. No.
Oh, he's muted? Oh no, he's not muted anymore. I don't think. Scott, can you say something real quick again? Oh, okay. Can you guys hear him? A little bit? Is there any way to turn up the volume?
A little bit.
I'm not talking to you, Scott. I'm talking to the media
I
team.
think my mic is working from my side. Let me know. Like you can hear it tapping, right?
Yeah, we can hear it. Is it now good? Okay, perfect. All right, so before we even get really into the questions, Scott is someone who's influenced my life massively. So when I was 15 years old in Cuba, and COVID happened, I found his videos online on YouTube documenting his learning during what he did what was called the MIT Challenge, where in 2012, when a lot of MOOCs started to open up, he took the approach of, hey, if there's all these different MOOCs that are opening up, maybe instead of going to university, I can actually teach myself, in a way, the equivalent knowledge source. So he did it for computer science, and instead of spending the usual 4 years, he did it in 12 months and published it. It's reached millions of people. He's spoken about it on TEDx, all these other platforms. And that was really what inspired me to do my own learning project. Then I finished. We had an interview. He posted it on his blog. And he's been one of the people that's really inspired me and changed how I think about a lot of things. Can you pass me the phone? Didem, the phone, please. Oh, for the yes. All right. So let's get into the questions. All right, hold on a second. So here we go. All right. So Scott, you've spent years documenting what separates people who learn effectively on their own from those who struggle. What's the single biggest misconception people have about self-directed learning?
Well, I mean, there's so many. It's hard to pick a favorite. But I think probably the biggest one that we have about self-directed learning in general is just that to first learn something, you first have to understand how it's structured. What's the right way to go about learning it? And so there's kind of a bootstrapping problem when you're teaching yourself a new skill, which is that you don't know how the knowledge is structured, so you don't also know the right way or the best way to study it. So I've spent a lot of my time trying to accelerate that process by trying to first figure out, okay, how do other people learn this skill? What is the ways that it's organized? How does it break down into concepts, facts, procedures, things like that? And then using that to kind of build a map for, okay, this would be a way to teach myself. So I think maybe the misconception sometimes is that we want to dive straight in, and we often don't do that in the most effective way possible because we lack the knowledge of how the knowledge is actually structured.
Okay, awesome. I love that. It's actually one of the things right before this that I was talking about in the keynote was exactly how to design your own curriculum, which is really the first step to learning anything. And I think it's also a skill too. Obviously, there's a bootstrapping problem, but I think there's things that you can still kind of do to organize it, of course. All right, the second question. Your concept of learning project has always been about structured self-direction. How is that changing now that AI can tutor, explain, and generate practice problems and give feedback on demand?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I wrote an essay recently where I was looking at my book, Ultra Learning, and like what I would have written differently, like where I would have put in different pieces of advice now that we're in this AI era. And so there's definitely a lot of tactics that are enabled because you have AI. So you brought up some of them, like one of the major bottlenecks, I could say even in my own project learning MIT's computer science classes, was that if you would hit an impasse where you don't understand some explanation, you would just be kind of stuck. So you would have to do a lot of trial and error, figuring out, and maybe like random searches online, and hopefully you'll encounter some explanation that will stick. So you can imagine that, you know, if you have too many of those in a class, it just makes learning something impossible. You're not going to be able to progress with that particular class or with that material. And I think that is a barrier for a lot of people. And now you can essentially have this kind of Socratic tutoring process that could go on indefinitely. So anytime you have any particular question, you can ask ChatGPT, or you can ask a large language model, and it doesn't always give the right answer, but this is just an avenue that is open that wasn't open when I was doing my original projects and when I wrote my book. But at the same time, I kind of feel like there's a lot that hasn't changed. And while we want to rush to talk about the things that have changed, the things that haven't changed are often the things that were actually greater stumbling blocks. So things like being able to allocate large amounts of time towards a learning project has always been a major stumbling block. Having the motivation to see things through to the finish line is a big one. Some of the basic skills of, well, if you're going to learn a language, for instance, you're going to have to do lots of practice. You're going to have to do lots of learning of vocabulary, grammar drills, these kinds of things. There was already a lot of material for those things. So it was not necessarily the case that AI fundamentally changes that equation. So I would point to the fact that I think that if someone was already making use of the material available, they'll find all these new uses for it. But for other people who their sort of tripping point or their stumbling point was with some of these more basic issues, I don't know whether things have actually changed all that much.
Okay, interesting. I love that. Third question. You've done ultra learning projects across languages, math, computer science, and even art. If you were designing one from scratch today with AI as a tool, what would you learn and how?
I think my interests have always been driven by what I've been most interested in rather than what the tools necessarily enable. So, I think as I've gotten older, I've maybe shifted a little bit more towards learning about maybe more conceptual subjects. And so I think that is one area where I feel like AI can maybe be more beneficial. Like for instance, if I wanted to learn deeply something about, let's say, like philosophy or something in the humanities, that was an area that was actually kind of challenging in a previous era, because maybe a lot of the knowledge is locked up in these sort of very hard to read books that normally you'd go to a classroom where the lecturer would like explain everything and you'd have these back and forth dialogues to kind of reveal sort of, okay, what is really meant by these ideas, and you should read this and you should read that. And I think that can be maybe accelerated somewhat by being able to do this and or sort of working with AI. Whereas a lot of my earlier projects, they kind of were a little bit constrained by, well, there is a very clear right answer here, and there is a clear way of going forward with it. So for computer science, for instance, a lot of the exams, they had worked out solutions. There is one correct answer, and this is how you get it, generally speaking. And so you'd be able to do the exams that way. And then for the programming projects, often they had little like tools that were created to just like check whether you got the right, like kind of basically a testing suite that would check that your program works as intended. And that sort of obviated a lot of need of this kind of qualitative coaching feedback. So I think, if you're asking me what kinds of projects do I think are unlocked now or are more recently enabled, I would say that there are more the things that would be actually more geared towards the humanities, more geared towards these areas where like what it means to know the thing is to like write a really good essay, which in my previous era would have been very hard to actually get confirmation that you understand this well. And I think that's something that you could probably engineer as a project right now. Although I haven't done one specifically in an academic sense. I do most of my projects now geared towards my writing as the end goal.
Awesome. What's been the most challenging thing you've learned, and what's been the most interesting thing you've learned, and why?
Well, those are also two really hard questions.
Yeah.
I think the most challenging thing I learned in terms of just objective difficulty was actually when I was taking, this was a little project I did shortly before my book came out, where I spent a month doing MIT's quantum mechanics class. And it was difficult purely because I wasn't fully prepared for it. Like I skipped one of the classes that you were supposed to take before.
Yeah.
And it had been several years since I had done like a lot of hard calculus and stuff. So I remember that one was like, that was hard just from I'm like, oh, I'm not quite prepared as I should be for this. So I think that you can abstract that to a more general point too. That like what makes something hard is to the degree to which you're prepared to do it. And so the preparation is everything. Not just preparation for a particular project, but like what is your prior knowledge coming into that particular moment? That makes all the difference of whether something is really easy or really hard. And I think people underrate how much they already know how to do that is actually quite difficult. That if you had to go from scratch and learn from scratch, it would seem really, really difficult. It's just that you already know it. Like you already know how to read probably in your native language. And that's something that, was kind of painstakingly acquired as a child. And so these are examples where I think, the difficulty is very relative to that starting point. So that would be the most difficult, most interesting. Oh, that's almost impossible. I would say that I like all the things that I've been learning. I feel like the subject that I keep coming back to is usually cognitive science. That was the thing that interested me most about computer science when I was learning it. And so, just the fact that we're living through this era of AI growth too, and that's sort of bringing these somewhat academic debates into popular discourse has been really exciting for me as well.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, I did watch some of the quantum mechanics videos that you had on YouTube. They were very
Those
interesting.
live streams of me, yeah.
No, very good. And I noticed the same thing because when I was doing my project around math and physics, I had this approach where I was learning multiple things at once, which I think is very beneficial for some reasons. That being said, if some of those things have prior prerequisites, that's when you can kind of get screwed a little bit. So there was a graduate course that I was taking on atomic and
Yeah.
optical physics, and it required like 2 quantum mechanics courses. I'm like, I don't need that. And then I was like, it was impossible pretty much to do that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly what
Or
I feel.
you can start climbing up a steep hill too. Like I've had that happen even during the MIT challenge itself,
Yeah.
where you, let's say you learn one class, or I'm speaking in third person, but when I would learn one class, and maybe I would like kind of scrape by on the skin of my teeth, but I wouldn't have that real deep understanding because of the pace I was going. So I remember like I did a lot better in the computer science ones than I felt I did in the electrical engineering ones. And so there were some sort of more advanced electrical engineering classes where I didn't have such a good grounding of like, you know, the you know, those complex plots with the like poles and whatever.
Yeah.
And so because I didn't have such a great grip, when you go on to like complex like antenna shapes and this kind of stuff, I was like, oh wow, like now I'm really struggling with this particular material. And it would be, so I think that's what happens to a lot of people is that the material gets steeper. And so if you don't learn it sufficiently at each stage, then the difficulty goes up, even though kind of objectively speaking, the amount of knowledge conveyed in each particular class maybe is constant or maybe isn't even increasing. It's just because, you know, your foundation is like it's essentially like you're building a building, but each
Exactly.
floor you don't make it as sturdy as the last one, and then eventually it starts to collapse.
Exactly. What I always say, there's this phrase that I often repeat, because some people think, oh, I'm not smart enough to learn something, but I'm always like, it's not your intelligence, it's your lack of prior knowledge. Oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, that's what people are often missing, because if you have those prior frameworks, at least new information can assimilate a lot more easily. Okay, last question, and then maybe I'll get one question from the audience. So obviously you've learned a wide range of things. What's something you're learning right now, and what's something interesting that you've recently learned?
Right. So, well, I've just wrapped up a project I was working on where I was sort of diving deep into the idea of like energy and fatigue. So this is more related to psychology, but I was covering from kind of a physiological space to psychology. And then most recently I was covering a lot of like philosophy. So I was reading a lot of books about kind of, you know, meaning and purpose and these kinds of things. And so some of the things that I kind of gathered from that last little tail end of that project I found very interesting, related to, you know, just the ideas of what should be our kind of like purposes in life and meanings in life. And so this kind of got me on, okay, maybe I'm going to set aside a separate time to do another project for diving deeper into that particular thing with philosophy. And I'm sorry, was there a second part to that question? I kind of got lost.
I think, what's something recently that you've learned, and what's something specific from that you could share? Maybe something interesting you've learned from that, like an insight, some concept.
Well, I mean, I would say a lot of these ideas are less sort of like this is a hard fact. So we're kind of moving away from like math and physics, where like this is a truth, this is a theorem, but more just sort of an idea that maybe I hadn't thought about fully before. But I'm currently reading this book called The Fragility of Goodness by Martha Nussbaum, and she talks a lot about a couple ideas that I think are kind of interesting to try on. And one is that kind of emotions are a kind of reasoning, and so often the sort of philosophy in general has been done to try to like get emotions out of it as much as possible. And the sort of idea, which I'm linking back to kind of cognitive science, that emotions are kind of a sort of specialized apparatus of reasoning that like works differently and has different strengths and weaknesses than kind of formal logic, is one that I'm thinking about a lot. And then also she talks a lot about this idea that you know, life has many different goods that we're pursuing, and that those can be kind of, you know, it can be inescapably in tension. So there's no sort of way of like getting out of having these sorts of conflicts. And she uses the Greek tragedies as some sort of a starting point for that. So that's something I've been mulling about lately.
Right.
That
Okay, I love it.
last, like, couple
I want to
weeks.
do a follow-up to that real quickly. Obviously you've learned a lot of things. What's one domain you haven't quite entered in, or you haven't quite learned about, but you'd like to explore, that's been on your mind?
I mean, there's so many. Like, I know almost nothing about music and music theory. And so, you know, it would be nice to like learn an instrument one day and understand that better, because I feel like that would be a real rich area to dig into that I know nothing about. But I mean, even if we just talk about subtopics like history, for instance, I mean, the amount of history I don't know like so greatly exceeds the history I do know. So you have these little little pinpoints of light where you're like, oh, I know a little bit about this, a little about this, but then you like name some random country or random people and it's like, I don't know anything about them, or I've never even heard of those people before. And so I think part of the joy of doing the learning is that you learn one thing and then you learn you don't know 10 other things. So the ignorance always expands at a much faster rate than the knowledge does. So you learn more and you feel dumber and dumber. That's sort of the necessary consequence of doing this. Yeah.
Exactly. Like even within a specific field, if you spend your whole life trying to learn it, regardless of the techniques, like I know you're not even gonna get to like nearly as much as the whole field is, right? Just because knowledge is growing so quick. Okay, amazing. I'll get one or two members from the audience to possibly ask a question. All right, here we go.
Hi, Scott. You talked about how you've been trying to improve your scaffolding on learning, how when you approach a new topic, you kind of have to figure out what it relies on, right? So in this age of AI, with all this new stuff going on with agents, orchestrators, agent skills, all that jazz, if today you decided you had to make a scaffold to try and learn about all that jazz, what would you do? I kind of want to just get an insight into your thought process of, okay, I have all this stuff in front of me. How do I parse it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one worry, and this is a trap that I've fallen into myself as well, is sometimes you can over-engineer solutions to things that aren't actually problems yet. So for instance, I like an obsession that I think a lot of people who have my kind of mindset towards, let's say, language learning get into, is that you get into this idea of like, oh, there's some correct way to do the flashcards, right? Like there's some way to avoid all the like, well, you do it this way and it's bad. And so there's this kind of finagling and like space repetition systems and like maybe you should be doing this software. And like I know people who have started whole companies because they found the right methodology for doing it. And that's probably helpful. Like you can kind of make improvements around the edges, but at the end of the day, you got to like sit down and you actually have to learn all this stuff. And sometimes that kind of advanced preparation of like building software, or building like now we're in this sort of agent environment where you can like vibe code whole software suites to help you learn these things. Sometimes they can be helpful, but sometimes they can also be distractions. So I think if I were actually going to go through and do something like the MIT challenge today, it'd probably be pretty lightweight, actually. I don't think I would be using an agent and building like very complicated tools to deliver results, just because there'd be a real risk that I'd spend a lot of time building some tool that just like doesn't quite work. It doesn't quite do what you want. And because it's a sort of a solution built for just myself, that it's maybe not particularly efficient. Whereas I feel like a lot of the stuff that it's kind of almost out of the box with LLMs right now can be quite helpful, just in terms of, we just talked about like this sort of Socratic questioning idea. Another example could be, okay, if I need to do drills on some particular type of problem set, could you get it to generate like 5 versions of the same drill, right? Or you could have something where, okay, here's the list of vocabulary I want to have, and then like make the flashcard templates. So I think you could use it for things like this, but at the same time, the thing that's not getting skipped over is the effort that you have to involve in actually learning it. So to use a more recent example, like, because I haven't, these projects I'm talking about in the past, I'm sort of speaking more hypothetically about how I would redo them. But what I do these days tends to be a lot more kind of more declarative knowledge, conceptual, reading books, just sort of like you read it and you have the knowledge in your head. And for me, I feel like the main danger of using AI is that there's this temptation to just like, okay, get the AI to summarize it and I'll read the summary, and then I won't actually go and read the papers. I won't actually go and read the textbook. I won't try to understand the basic building blocks. And the result is that, you don't actually understand it. You can't actually talk about it fluently. And so there is, I think, a real, there's an illusion that's being perpetuated on us right now that like, I'm going to get the AI to do the work for me so I don't actually have to learn. And so you have to be very careful, I think. You can definitely create tools that can, take some strong learning principles and smooth off some of the places where they break down in sort of the previous environment. And I'm very hopeful about that. But there's just so many ways that you can just convince yourself you've learned something that you actually haven't.
Okay, perfect. Ooh, close that off. Great, Scott. Where can people find you? First, I would recommend everyone get his book, Ultra Learning. It's fantastic. I love it. I have it on my bookshelf, one of the first ones. But where can people go to find you, and what are some things from your resources? Because you've been writing articles for like 20 years now, right? So where should they go to find you, and where do you recommend they start? Oop.
Sorry, I hope
Yeah.
I hope I'm not cutting out here. Your audio's cutting out a little bit on me.
Can you hear me?
Diego? But you can reach me at scotthyoung.com. So I have, again, thousands of articles on a lot of these topics, even stuff related to AI and learning and some of these new technologies. And you can also check out my books, Ultra Learning and Get Better at Anything, where I've kind of summarized a lot of my thinking on these particular topics in those places. So by all means, check them out. And I have a contact form there, so feel free to send me an email as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Scott. A round of applause, please. You got cut, but okay. Okay, there we go. All right, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Scott. Is there any, actually, before we go, is
Thank
there
you.
any
Take
last
care.
message that you'd like to give the audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're living in an era where a lot of people are worried whether learning is still going to be valuable, whether human skills are still going to be valuable, and I think that the future is definitely going to be different. But the skill that is going to still remain valuable is the ability to teach yourself things, to learn hard things, and to have a thirst for knowledge and curiosity. And so cultivate that, and I think whatever happens in your career and in technology and life, you will be prepared.
Yeah, that's actually the whole goal with the title of the event, right? Self-directed learning as like the last skill, right? Because you're always going to have to be learning new things. All right, thank you so much for joining us, Scott. All right.
Exactly. Take care.
Okay, let's move on to Alexander. He's going to come join me. We're going to have a quick chat, fireside chat. I do need some chairs. Hold on. All right. Perfect. Let's go get some chairs. You excited? All right. Hold on. I got my questions here. Okay. Yeah, they're bringing them. All right. You ready for some hard questions or what? Yeah, dude, of course, man. Like, this is really great. Awesome. I'm glad you like it, man. All right. Oh, we're getting some chairs. And after this, we're going to be playing a video recording of the conversation I had with Barbara Oakley. So stay tuned for that as well. All right. Over here, thank you. Alex is, well, you studied physics, then went on to, well, is currently an AI engineer at AIMA, and he's constantly learning new things. So I thought it'd be very interesting to bring him on. He's also a AI YouTuber. So we actually, in some of the prizes that we're going to be giving out, it's around his community and course. So you'll guys see that.
Thanks, Diego. Great night, man. Diego's put a lot of work into this, as you can tell. It's beyond any level of tech event I've been to this week.
Awesome.
In terms of the things, the cameras, the vibe, the windows.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate
let's
it.
get it.
All right, let's go. So you're building with AI every day at AIMA and teaching it on YouTube. What does your actual personal learning process look like right now? And how much of it is AI assisted versus things you still insist on doing the hard way?
Yeah. Okay. I want to give you guys some actually like practical, simple stuff that you can start doing, I think, for learning. Okay. I think there's a bit of a trap with AI because the promise is that everything's a lot simple. Scott talked about a lot of these ideas. And I think the trap is just going right to AI tools and starting to get them to solve your problem. I think the first step for learning something when you're approaching a new topic or when I need to learn a new technology, and I have an example I'll talk about in a moment, but the first thing I think to do is actually just understand the fundamentals of that thing. And often that thing makes it, there's resources out there that other people have built and spent time thinking about, maybe the documentation for the tool that you're trying to use, right? So go to that and just kind of read it. Read the docs. right? But just at a high level. Now, what the promise of AI is that it's personalized learning. Like, this has never been possible before. So rather than me learning some other example and applying it to my own use case, AI can apply it for me on my exact use case. And I can ask it my exact pain points, but I need that fundamental understanding and framework of the technology first. It just saves you a lot of time, I think.
Okay, awesome. No, that's perfect.
Can I give my example?
Yeah, sure, give an example.
So I built a coding agent on Pi. Pi is the underlying framework of OpenClaw. So I want to start building agents. So I made a video on using Pi. But the trap would be to go to an AI tool like ChatGPT and say, hey, make me a video on using, the AI agent Pi. I need a tutorial, blah, blah. But much better method is to research how that tool works, and then it gives me some structure to ask specific questions for it to build the tutorial for me.
Awesome. All right, next question. The half-life of technical skills is shrinking faster than ever. What does that mean for how engineers should be thinking about learning now? And is the old model of master a stack deeply still viable?
Boo. Technical
Boo?
skills, boo. No, that's so sad, right? AI is kind of destroying this special thing, right? Like, I spent years coding. It's my special skill. AI has sort of taken that away from us as software developers, where we can't actually, we're not able to code anymore. We can't do it. If you talk to software engineers, they have to use coding agents now because there's no other way to keep up with the industry. So this time is gone, right? Okay, yes, it is important to specialize. I think specializing is a great path to success. For example, if you're a Python developer, you can specialize highly in Python. You can understand what's coming in Python 3.15, and you can know about this and maybe contribute to the code base. This specialization path gives you a lot of opportunities because there's not many people who are on your level of specialization, but it limits your options, right? It's less freedom, whereas being a generalist gives you more freedom. I'm more of a generalist, and I have a lot of freedom of where I can go in my life, what I can do with my time, where I get to work. I worked in Japan for 5 months last year. And part of that is being a generalist and having these options, but it's more difficult and slow. I'm 34 years old, and there's younger people who are much further along than me, and I think that's because they had a clearer path because they specialized more than I did.
Interesting. So I will challenge that a little bit, because sometimes I love the whole, I'm all for generalism, so this is just very interesting. That being said, I also think it depends on a person's goals. So I think usually, I would say I like to be general first and then specialize afterwards, just for the reason that even within a topic, being a little bit more general first, and there's even studies on this very interestingly. A lot of the greatest thinkers, they are able to bring domains or mental models from different domains and kind of mold them in a way. So it's good, I feel like it's good to have first kind of broad and then broad first search and then depth. That's my opinion, but I like that.
I think AI, it's like a force multiplier. Mm-hmm. So if you're a generalist, now you can multiply all these generalist skills, right?
All right, perfect. You've built an audience teaching technical concepts on YouTube. What's the gap you see most between how people think they're learning from your content and how they're actually retaining and applying it?
Okay, yeah, I love this question. I've been on YouTube for 2 years, and I believe the problem with, there's a core thing about learning, and it's that you don't learn by watching other people do stuff, right? Agreed, pretty much?
I think it depends on the domain, but that's not sufficient. That can be one thing, but that's definitely not sufficient.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, we won't get into the details of what learning is, I guess. But when you watch me code on YouTube, it is maybe fun, maybe a bit entertaining, and it can be a pathway to, it's a starting point, but you're not actually learning by watching me do stuff, right? It's by doing it yourself. You need to take it and apply it, and I love the act of creation. I think the more that you can create in the domain you're trying to learn, the more you'll learn. The more fun it will be, the faster you'll learn, because your brain does this thing when you're creating, and it's has to figure it out, and it forces these concepts to stick. So that's what people get wrong, is they watch me do stuff, but they don't do it themselves. You should do that. And one trick you can do, if you're watching YouTube videos, you can go to Gemini and plug in the URL and just say, hey, here's a YouTube video. And then you can start talking to it. You can be like, what time does the guy get into the demo? What does he talk about? What happened at 4 minutes? I missed that part. I don't understand what he did. So Gemini is good because it's from Google, which has YouTube. So they can read their own videos, and you can kind of watch them. That's interact
awesome.
with them, interact with these concepts.
That's awesome. That's awesome. what's something recently that you're learning, and what's something that's like surprised you a little bit, let's say.
Okay, I learned Japanese over the last couple of years. I've never been a language guy, numbers guy. And I actually asked ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, I'm a numbers guy, so that means I can't learn languages very easily, right? And it's like, actually, not really, man. Like, that's not how it works. You can just apply yourself to that, and you'll be all right. I learned a lot about learning through, like, meta-learning, through learning the languages, and this idea of, like, spaced repetition, stuff like that, and using the language. So, like, actually being in Japan and speaking it out loud, and using it in different contexts, and that's something I learned.
What's something you'd like to dive into that you haven't yet?
Like to dive into? I have too many hobbies.
Too many? Okay.
I'm not looking to dive into anything else. I'm trying to cut out a few hobbies, to be honest.
All right.
I'm going to record an album this year. I play music, so I'm putting out
Well,
some
you
music
talk
on
about
Spotify.
specialization, but you look like you're a generalist.
I am a
Is that
generalist. No,
what
I'm
you
a
do?
generalist,
Okay.
right?
Oh, you're the
Yeah,
generalist.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Let's see. I'll get one person from the audience to maybe ask a question to Alex if they want. Oh, okay.
Hey, Alex, give me your blue sky thoughts on YouTube and Gemini in the future. You're part of that world, and you're a musician. Like, what do you think is going to happen? And
Like,
over the next
more specifically?
just what's the trend? Is it all going to be generated? Are you going to be more creative? How are you going to be part of it?
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of generated content out there, AI generated stuff. That's more along the lines of what you were thinking. Okay, I think about the creator economy because I'm a creator, and this is where I'm going with my career, to be a full-time creator. So I think in the future, people will follow people they trust, and there will be a lot more sort of connection between individuals and those people they trust. We already see it. If you look on Spotify, you can find new bands every day. There's so many more bands, right, than there used to be. Like, you can connect with them. The internet connects you people. And now there's all this like noise and bad stuff and fake content and trash. And in the future, I just see more and more of like small-time creators finding their little niche and their little weird part of the internet. And I believe in 1,000 true fans. So that's what I'm looking for. And then I can just make this my career. If I have 1,000 people who just really love what I do, I get to do that. That's my plan with YouTube. And YouTube is the foundation of my business with that, yeah.
Everyone give a round of applause to Alex, please. All right, just give me a second, and I'm going to be playing the Oakley video. Hold on a sec. Todavía no lo pongo. It's here. Let me... Let's do... Okay. Aquí yo creo que te lo mandé, pero no sale. No me deja hacer clic. Tipo, qué raro. Está bien. Y espérate, mira, y si lo tengo en mi teléfono, no puedo transmitirlo por ahí. So, hang with us for a second. right, let's go. Oh, no se escucha el audio. El audio no. Déjame ver. Oh, espera, wait. Okay, so I've got the video. We're going to take a quick side note. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the learning app that we've been developing, and then we're going to go back. So there's a bit of an issue with the audio, so we'll first go through this. Okay. Okay, Elliot, got it? Okay. Okay, so this is something that me and Elliot have been working on for, well, it's been a few months, but really in terms of knowledge, it's been really a few years. One of the things that I've noticed with AI is that now we're able to learn more things effectively with AI, but how can we actually operationalize that, right? And that's really the whole concept with the app that we've been building. So I've been doing a little bit more of the whole product, the learning science behind it, and Elliot has been helping me implement it. So the name of the app is Huda. I want to first take a quick guess. Does anyone know why that might be the name? Oh, okay, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. Let's see.
Huda is something like omnibus. You know what an omnibus is? Everybody knows what an omnibus is. It's just bus, but it actually means for all in one.
So it's not quite neither of those. Does anyone else want to take a guess? Am I seeing? Anyone want to take a guess? Okay.
Is it an acronym for something?
Oh, okay, yeah, it's like a shortened version of yes. It's a shortened version of something. Let's say one more guess. Yeah.
Something in a different language?
Okay, good. I wouldn't say, interesting. I think it does have derivatives in different language, but actually, no. I think it's not quite it, but that's a very good guess. It's a very good guess. Okay, so I'm going to say it. I don't know if anyone's heard of the word hyudagogy. If you're like in education, maybe, but it's really the whole concept of self-determined learning. So I spent a decent amount of time trying to figure out a good name, and I'm like, okay, a good name that has to do with the app and that also sounds cool. I found this. So it's just taking the first few words of it. So that's the whole kind of concept. And my whole philosophy was that now with AI, you can pretty much teach yourself anything, but how do we operationalize that? And so this is really the project that's going on. And every single person that's registered to this event is going to have at least initial access when we launch to to kind of, and yeah. Oh, what's going on? Wait, what? Oh, we're not doing the video yet. We're going to be doing the video after. Yeah? You got it? Wait, what? Can it show? We don't quite see it over there, though. Huh? What happened? Oh, yeah. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next ones. All right, next slide. Okay, so these are a few things about kind of why I even kind of started to build this in the first place. There's too much of everything but no clear path. You've tried a lot of different apps, probably Notion, Obsidian, etc. But none of them have really left you satisfied with being better on the learning side. Hours of YouTube, nothing sticks. 2 weeks hard and then a month of silence. So it's also a consistency issue. Next one. Okay, so self-directed learning works. AI just makes it faster. One of the things that we're trying to develop inside this is, I think you guys are going to like this, but pretty much the loop is you can create a learning, map your curriculum, and then based off of that, you get routed into a certain mode, so a certain learning mode. And then from that mode, it's pretty much a map directly, but based on different techniques that you would use to learn something. So obviously, practice, there's reading, so there's do to learn. How can we make part of the system more efficient? Okay, so one app for everything we know about how you learn. So this is a little bit about it, the modes, graph, curriculum, and the community. Next one. Okay, so the first thing, there's kind of the front end and the back end. Part of what we're trying to do with this, besides the modes which help you learn better, is also the back end, which is the knowledge. This hasn't been developed yet. In fact, we're trying to develop new algorithms to be able to update it. So the whole idea is that there's different modes that you use to learn. From those modes, we use those as what are called learning artifacts or learning evidence. And then we use that evidence to pretty much route that and create a picture of how you currently understand or how you've mastered a subject, at least up until then. So that's kind of front and back end. Okay, so 5 modes. Obviously, this is just starting. We're trying to implement a lot more when it comes to this, but a few things. So one of the biggest things when people are reading that makes it less effective is they're reading passively, not actively. But if you can have prompts and different things throughout as you're reading, you're going to learn a lot more effectively. So that's the goal with that mode. Socratic discussion, this is for refining how you understand things and being able to tweak that. Notes canvas, you're going to be taking notes that elaborates on what you understand and maps out what you know. We're trying to build a render system. So based off of your notes, it's going to analyze it and give recommendations on what you should add, remove, etc. And then we'll see with the routing, it's going to analyze your notes and update your knowledge graph from that. Deliberate practice, so this is more around creating a mode where you can generate drills. And you can and also change the problem, kind of like what Scott talked about, right? You can have an initial problem that you feed into it and then vary it so that you can also practice kind of similar problems within that. And yep. Let's go. All right. So, which is a little bit more general, but it's still very useful for the retention component. All right, next one. Okay, reading that thinks back. So all of this is really grounded in, it's very interesting because I've spent a lot of time doing kind of research and synthesizing a lot of what's out there. And so really what we're trying to do is just reverse engineer. So based on the papers and things that exist, can we create like an app that helps you, that facilitates things? One example for the active reading part is Self-Explanations by Chi et al. So that was a research paper where by having prompts around reading, students are able to learn more effectively. And so the more prompts you have and the quality of those prompts can help you think in new ways, and thinking in new ways is going to lead to more learning. So that's just one example. We're trying to have it much more encompassing, but that's an example of how we've kind of reverse engineered it. Next one. Okay, your AI never gives the answer. So a big thing with scaffolding, so kind of guiding, is that oftentimes the AI just gives you the answer quite literally. It doesn't really engage with you or help you think. That's the goal of this mode. One of the effective parts of it is that it's going to help you reorganize your knowledge. That's really the benefit of discussions. And it's also tailored so that it's, again, not just giving you the answer, but kind of guiding you to think about the answer. A canvas that thinks with you. Okay, so this is a very interesting one. A lot of times when we're taking notes, and I have a whole philosophy around notes, maybe in other events I'll talk about it, but one of the things is that we're taking notes, a lot of people take notes just to reference them in the future, not really to think. So hopefully this fixes a part of it. It's literally an AI that helps you think as you're taking notes and also gives recommendations on where you should take your notes, pretty much. Next one. Okay, pick topics, get an interleave problem set. So this is where, based off of the concepts, it's going to generate drills. It's also going to interleave them. So interleaving is about mixing problem types. This is helpful for the sake of having a more transferable knowledge structure. So if, I don't know, an example in baseball, if I keep getting thrown the same type of ball, I'm not going to learn as much as if he's mixing it up. So that's really the whole idea with it. You're also allowed to vary the difficulty, the problem, and switch topics too. Next one. Okay, generate cards. This is a little bit of a simpler part. This uses, if anybody has used a little bit of like space repetition systems or other things, this is kind of just the standard. Just because this is very useful for retention. It's really a quick thing. There's not really anything innovative about this part, except the fact that in the routing mechanism, we're also doing an update to your knowledge graph based off of your retention. Oh, and this is one of my favorite parts. So besides all of those features, we're also having an AI co-pilot that's in the background. So this is going to, and he's a lot more technical on this than I am, but this is going to be using reinforcement learning to pretty much track the evidence that you've created, and based off of that, give general recommendations, like, should you go to this mode, should you go to that one, etc. Next one. Okay, this is the good part. So it's a live graph of what you know. One of the things that I found in school that I don't think is as effective is you're just having, now, obviously, you have like homework and these other things, but oftentimes it's very just isolated points of evidence. So like, oh, did they do well on an exam or not? The whole goal with this is that it's literally continuous. So from the moment you learn to like the things you get incorrect, et cetera, it takes all of that and creates a knowledge graph, and it continually updates it. So this is really like your proof of knowledge in a way. Yeah. Yeah, so like instead of a B+, it's like literally to what exact knowledge component, how much have you mastered? Like that's really the goal of what we're trying to do. Next one. Okay, learning velocity. So one of the features, and just to take a side note, we were going to do a live demo. We had some technical issues, so we're only doing kind of the slides, but every single person, again, that's here is going to get more updates around this. So learning velocity has 3 inputs. There's really 3 things that make you learn, that determine how fast you're going to learn something. So one is the content itself. Like, is it insight dense? Is it just full of fluff? It's very important. The prior knowledge you have, so even Scott talked about this, right? But then it's your actual learning skills. Right? So pretty much how well you've developed your learning system. Now, within this, we've generated a personalized curriculum generator. So based off of your goals, your concepts that you want to learn, it's going to create a personalized curriculum. It's also adaptive, so you can add and remove things. And it's also built off of your prior knowledge. So we're going to give you an assessment, and then based off of the assessment and the goal, it's going to create a curriculum out of a database that we've curated, or that we are curating. So it's also not even fluff, because we're trying to just have resources in the database that are insightful. Next one. Okay, so learning project is a data structure. One of the parts I talked about was the social component of learning. We're trying to also, within this app, besides even the modes, the knowledge graph, and everything else, we're trying to make it like fun and a community aspect to it. So kind of like social media for learning, in a way. So the whole goal is that based off of this, you're going to have a learning project. That learning project is a data structure with your curriculum, everything, also your knowledge graph. And then you can share that on LinkedIn, et cetera, to share with people what you've learned and how well you've learned it. Next one. Okay, mastery checklist. So besides the curating a curriculum, it's also going to create a dependency graph on the different concepts, the prerequisites, and the kind of stages that you should take. Next one. Yeah, so input your life and get an AI optimized learning plan. Again, this should hopefully save people a little bit of like trouble in organizing. Based off of the gaps in your schedule, it's going to kind of optimize what you should do in each session and tell you, okay, from this time to this time, based on where you are, you should probably go into this mode and implement that. Next one. Yeah, social media, but for learning. So a public project linked XP, you can have DMs and group chats. You can also have learning groups. So this is a little bit of a screenshot from it. And you can pretty much compete with people based off of how much your knowledge graph has grown and how much you've learned. So a profile that shows what you built. So literally social media for learning, you can go to someone's profile and you can literally see their sessions, last time they learned, their knowledge graph, everything. Okay, so when Huda's live, you guys log in. I wanted to show this because this is an interesting project we've been working on for quite a bit. So every single person that's here is gonna get access when we do launch. But okay, let me now go to Barbara Oakley's video. Let's see if we can actually pull it off. If not, I might have to just send you guys the video, but we'll see if we can do it. So hold on a sec. And then we're going to the prizes and then the food. Okay, I know you guys are waiting. It's coming. It's coming soon. Correo. So we should be getting started with it soon. I think actually now it's going to be able to show it. Okay, let me actually go full screen. Thank you. Oh no, because they're doing it. Never mind. Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, okay. So I'm Barb Oakley. I'm a professor of engineering emerita at Oakland University, and I co-created the course Learning How to Learn, which is one of Coursera's most popular massive open online courses. And let's see,
Just for context, it seems that my part somehow got cut out, but I guess then I can just kind of tell you what the questions were that I was asking her. So I was pretty much telling her who she is, what she's working at, and what's something where she works at, and what's something that she's learning or working on right now.
oh, okay. So I'm Barb Oakley. I'm a professor of engineering emerita at Oakland University, and I co-created the course Learning How to Learn, which is one of Coursera's most popular massive open online courses. And let's see, right now I am working on a paper to help people understand that some of the approaches that are currently being used in education are actually crippling students' abilities to learn.
Okay, so in this part, I'm asking her what surprised her the most about the people who pretty much went on to take her her course, Learning How to Learn, which reached over 4 million students. Okay, my part should be done now. It's kind of funny seeing me. Okay.
Oh, what really surprised us with this course was that the people who showed up for it were generally between about 25 years old and 55 years old. So, in other words, it was not high school students and it wasn't college students. They weren't interested in learning how to learn. And I think part of what's going on is you're so busy having knowledge crammed into you, or at least they're attempting to cram that knowledge into you, that you don't even want to know anything more about learning. And people get out into business and into the working world, and then suddenly they realize there's so much more to learn, and that not only that, it could be helpful to get some tips on how your brain works so you can learn more effectively.
I think this was just me giving some comments on it. Okay. Yeah, so kind of regurgitating the question. At least I have it on the edits. Okay.
So AI is revolutionizing everything we understand about learning itself, actually, because we're beginning to understand how the brain works better by looking at large language models and sort of understanding how they work. And the reality is, though, that although there's a revolution now with AI in the fact that teachers and professors cannot use many of the methods they've always used in the past to assess what you've learned. They can't use essays, that you have to prepare all these projects or answer homework questions and so forth, because you can go off to ChatGPT and get answers easily. So what has become important is that we need to know more about how our brain really learns, because what people are beginning to do is to say, well, ChatGPT can do it, so why should I bother to learn it? But if I say to you, for example, that 12 times 12 is 299, my hope is that something inside you says, that is really wrong. See, you can only think critically about what you're getting from AI or a calculator if you actually have some knowledge and insight inside your own brain. If I use Google Translate to translate my English into Mandarin, well, I can do that, but I do not speak Mandarin myself. There's problems now in that foundational knowledge is necessary for you to be an expert on anything, and you can't always just look it up. So part of what is involved nowadays in really learning well is actually getting that information inside your own brain and knowing that that's important to do.
I guess another comment from me. I think we have one or two more questions.
But with one additional thing, and that is understanding isn't enough. You can understand addition. I remember one of my engineering students coming up to me and he waved this test in front of my face. He flunked it. And he said, I just don't see how I could have flunked this test. I understood it when you said it in class. We've gotten so overboard with the idea that conceptual understanding is the only golden key to learning that we overlook the fact that you got to get it in your brain. Just understanding it doesn't really get you there. If you can't remember what you've learned, you really didn't understand it.
Some more context here. So I think just a quick thing. The question that I asked was in relation to, just gonna go. Pretty much our whole point is that it's not just conceptual, but you still need some level of factual knowledge to be able to operate. That was kind of the whole idea behind that question.
The best way to motivate yourself is to get curious about things. And the easiest way to get curious about something is to ask ChatGPT for something to help you get curious about things. I remember when I was in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, the professors would explain to me that many of their students were from the Mongolian steppe. They had absolutely no interest whatsoever in learning Python programming. And how could they get these students to be more excited about what they were learning? I said, well, go to ChatGPT, and what it can do, let's say you're trying to teach about main guard and scope and in Python programming. It will give you really cool metaphors for main guard and scope in terms of yurts and migratory patterns and the kinds of things that can be more familiar to a student. Now, with all this said, curiosity is a great motivator because what it does is, like when you read, let's say, a mystery, at the very beginning, they get you curious about something. that actually elicits dopamine in the brain, and that dopamine kind of drifts around. And when you're learning something, even when it's the boring stuff before you get to the end of the mystery, it actually, that because you have that dopamine there, it helps you to learn the more boring stuff more easily, because it helps link together those neural connections that are the formation and foundation of learning and memory.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so one final thing. Now I'm going to be getting into the prizes. All right, so I'm going to be showing them a little bit. It's this one over here. Okay. Okay, there we go. So a little bit about the prizes. Actually, I need to put an extra one here, which is Alexander's course. I don't know where I missed it, but not course, but community around AI engineering. So there's a few prizes we're going to be giving out. Now, that being said, I did send out a form for people to apply, but for some people, it got into the promotional inbox or they just didn't receive it. So what I'm going to be doing is, besides the prizes that I'm going to be announcing now, I'm also going to allow pretty much put on the screen for the people that weren't able to apply so that they can kind of scan it and apply as well. Okay, so the self-learner ecosystem. So a lot of the prizes are my prizes around the ecosystem. So let me break it down really quickly. The ecosystem is really on three main parts: the cohort, the community, and the teams. So the cohort is really where transformation happens around the self-directed learning methodology. My whole goal is to have like an intense 6 months where I can kind of like ingrain that in you, where we have co-working sessions. We're going to be having in-person sessions around implementation, et cetera. And not only that, the whole goal of that is, depending on the project that you're going to pursue and what you're exploring, we're going to match you with a mentor from day one, and he's going to be someone that's also going to guide you throughout. And we're also going to boost your learning project on our socials. So pretty much that's not just the learning side, but also the opportunity attraction side. Then the community is for things like this. We're going to be having also online Q&As. We're going to be having events. It would be free access to all of that, and much more workshops. And then teams, which is kind of cohorts, but for enterprise or organizations. There weren't that many of those, so it's mostly going to be cohort and teams. And then in terms of the tools, we're going to be giving away, for those of you that haven't quite gone over there to the sponsors, Riva Careers, Nodali, and Resume AI. So Riva Careers is an internship search and application tool that helps you find the right roles and track every application. Very useful for students. Nodali is a job networking and coffee chat tool, very useful for professionals that are trying to get into a specific industry. And then Resume AI, which is an AI resume tailor, pretty much, that helps you bypass certain we could say like, not laws, but certain things when applying that they have. And also Alex's AI engineering community as well. So those are kind of the things that we're going to be giving out. So this is a little bit about the cohort, the community, and the teams. And for those of you that were not able to apply, so I'm going to be announcing the winners here. You can scan the apply for prizes part. And after the event, I'm also going to be sending an email to kind of the people that did apply, and then kind of reviewing that and see who won as well. And then also, please, I'm going to be leaving this on for the rest of the event afterwards. Tell us how it went. So this is also another QR code that's kind of really useful for feedback on my end, just on things that I can tweak and improve. Okay, so let's go on to the prizes. So one of these prizes is a full cohort scholarship. So there are some conditions around this. But it's pretty much free access for the 6-month cohort. So the person who won this is Rita. Give a round of applause. Can you stand up? All right. So after this, I'm going to be sending all the prize winners emails around the prizes and what would be the next steps, pretty much. Okay, second winner. So this is another full cohort scholarship to Jawad. So Jawad, stand up. All right. Round of applause. Okay. Now I'm going to be going into partial cohort scholarships. So this is at a like significant discount than what would usually be. So this would be like saving $2,000 or more. So going on to the partial scholarships for the cohort, Peter Forand. Already have it? Oh, over there, stand up. Awesome. On to the next one, Kong Zim Hain. I hopefully didn't butcher that. I don't know if they're here. Kong Zim, oh, you got it? Okay, partial one, awesome. Sammy Lorette. Yeah, oh, that's you, okay. So that's a partial scholarship for you. Santiago Cortez. Now they're here. Oh, there we go. Joe Kakumba. Joe Kakumba. Do I have a Joe Kakumba here? Oh, maybe he's not here. Maybe he left or went out or something. Okay. Janish. Partial scholarship. Oh, for Janish. Okay. Round of applause. Hao Yang Lee. Oh, there we go. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Sumita Kamar. Sumita Kamar? Oh, there we go. Okay, we got it. Okay, so those are on the cohort side. Now, in terms of the community access, oh, I'm showing it here. Oh my God, I was supposed to be surprised. Okay, that was my bad. Okay, hold on. Let's turn this turn this off for a second. I didn't even notice that. Okay, it's got to be a surprise, or else you know. Okay. Now on the community access. So this is going to be 4 months of community access. So to events like this, all of that free. And then after that, you're going to be, if you want to continue, obviously going to the continuing to be in the community, it's going to be at the same early bird price that everyone's going to get at the event. So 4-month community access, Elliot Vince. All right, round of applause. Okay. Next one's Clayson Colburn. Clayson, okay, round of applause for Clayson. Kevin Badla, the guy, okay, with the cool hat. Believe it or not, I've known this guy for 2 to 3 years now. Since we met the first time online when I did my project, he was one of the first people, I think the first person to email me after I published my project. And he lived in Toronto, coincidence, you know. Okay, 4-month community access as well to Chendeya. Chendeya. I don't know if I'm butchering that. Anyone here? Okay, maybe Chendeya is not here. 4-month community access to Hanif. Is it Hanif here? Oh, yeah. You're the volunteer, man. What am I saying? I got so lost into it. You're good, man. I didn't know who's helping me. You're good, man. You got 4 months community access. Okay. Ben Horbridge. Oh, there we go. Okay. William Vargas. Oh, there we go. Okay. Good one, man. All right. So now in terms of now we're going to get into the different tools. Now for these tools, there's still, from the sponsors, there's still a few extra slots for everyone who's going to apply afterwards. You have a chance of winning it. So for actually I'm going to go into the teams. So 2 people won the teams, which is, at least at this level, because of the people that applied, it wasn't so much teams, it was more organizations. And so one of the people who applied is Veronica. So you're going to be getting a pretty much a workshop across your organization around self-directed learning. Okay? Everyone, a hand of applause for Veronica. And then the second one, Susana Garay. That's one. Okay, she's going to get one too. Okay, so now let's get on to the different tools. So for the internship tool, Carlos Teles, Revo. Oh, not quite yet. I'm gonna be showing you guys in a sec. Carlos Teles, where are you? Tele. Oh, you know who you are. You got it. Revo. So it's gonna be a full-term pass to Revo. So Rohan, is it Rohan here? Oh, there we go, Rohan. Round of applause for Rohan. Stanley, he got access for full-term access to Revo. Juwon Lim. Juwon Lim. Do we have a Juwon Lim? Okay, apparently not. Keenan. Access to Revo. Okay. All right, now on to Nodali. So for this one, we're going to have, I think, 12, I believe it was. And then, by the way, for all the people that are here, all of these I'm going to be emailing you, and obviously if it's not the prizes from my company, you're going to be in touch with the people, right? Okay, so Clayson Cobrin, Nodali as well. Rohan, you're going to have access to Nodali as well. Stanley again, access to Nodali, okay. Juwon Lim, okay, I think he's not here. Juwon Lim. Hanif, 2, Nodali. Hopefully I don't butcher this. Kunariata. Monray's sister. I don't know if they're here. I saw him somewhere here. I don't know if he left, though. They're over there. Monray. Where'd he go? Ah, he's over there. Round of applause for them. She can stand up. She's all the way in the back. Let's see, what else we have? Elliot Vince as well. Access to No Dolly. Rita. Yep, again, access to it. Jawad. 2, yep. Keenan. Access to No Dolly as well. Dirham. Where is she? Dirham. Oh, access to No Dolly 2. And Hao Yang Lee. Hao Yang Lee is here. Oh, as well. There we go. Perfect. And then also, Resume, they're going to be giving discounted access to you guys. So for those that want more information around that, please do go to their booth. Okay, so that's going to be it for the prizes. I'm going to go back to, let me actually put this back. I'm going to go back to the slides. So for the people that want to give feedback or also want to apply for the prizes if they weren't able to do so, because we're still going to be giving a few more to certain applications. Okay, where is it? Here. Okay, you can scan this QR code, and you can also scan the other one to give us some feedback, okay? All right, so now it's time for the moment everyone's been waiting for, which is the food and continual networking, okay? So, oh, important thing. Yes, before I go, two actually things. So besides the food and the networking, for the people that also, even if you weren't able to get a prize, if you want to sign up or have any information around that, please go to the sign-up desk over there, whether it's the community, cohorts, or anything like that. Second thing, importantly, I was about to forget. They reminded me. I want to thank all the sponsors. So let me see. I think I have the sheet over here. So some of the people that made this event possible, a mix of community partners and obviously sponsors. So Megan Harris, I want to thank her so much for helping me do this event, financing it, and everything. The other one's Victoria and Jason DeLuca. I don't think they weren't able to be here in present, but they were able to also sponsor the event. So round of applause for them. And also to all the other amazing sponsors, OCAD University's research initiative. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't have been able to get this venue. Of course, Nodali, Revo, Resume. Thank you guys so much for being here and also for making this possible. And of course, also Havana Chef Table for providing the food. This is actually my family business, my family Cuban business. So that's my mom, my stepdad. You guys are going to be able to try their food. Okay. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to continue back to this slide for those that want to apply or tell us how and give us feedback. And then, yeah, enjoy the food and continue networking.